Okay guys, so in this video I'm discussing the next parts of Python discussion. So that will be related to your Cushing syndrome. So just I tried shooting this video, so there was a power cut, so sorry for the delay. So the most common cause of Cushing will be iatrogenic. You can see it can also be seen in some cancers as an ectopic ACTH production like in carcinoid and small cell lung cancer. The small cell lung cancer we also call this oat cell lung cancers. Or sometimes it can be due to pituitary or adrenal tumor. How to make a diagnosis? Diagnosis of this tumor, diagnosis of this disease, Cushing disease. Diagnosis is done by 24 hours urinary cortisol. So this test we do for screening. Investigation of choice, if I say that is your low dose and dexamethasone suppression test. So in the future, like patient will have a buffalo hump, thinning of hairs, moon-like face, a violet or purple color lines, central obesity. So this appearance we call lemon on stick appearance. Lemon on stick appearance. So these are the features and MCQs related to Cushing syndrome. Okay, if I compare the two diseases, Cohen syndrome and Addison disease. So Cohen syndrome, this is your primary hyperaldosteronism. On the other hand, primary hypoaldosteronism or adrenal insufficiency, we use the term Addison disease. So remember, the most common cause of Cohen syndrome will be a tumor or an hyperplasia. So this I'm writing the word tumor in Cohen syndrome. In Addison disease, it is due to autoimmune adenitis. So generally, they ask question endocrine based on increase or decrease. So remember, just one part of this, that BP will increase in Cohen syndrome because of excess aldosterone, and potassium NH positive ion will be lost. So you will see these features. If you compare this with Addison disease, you will see BP will decrease in Addison disease. So that is why we gave hydrocortisone. So diagnostic test that we use is investigation of choice will be saline infusion test in case of Cohen syndrome, co-syntropin or ACTH stimulation test. That will be investigation of choice in case of Addison disease. So this is your investigation of choice. If I say the treatment is done by spironolactone in case of Cohen syndrome and hydrocortisone in case of Addison disease. Okay, if I say pheochromocytoma, this is a tumor of adrenal medulla. If this type of tumor is occurring from your sympathetic ganglia, that is called extra adrenal side. In case of extra adrenal side, we use the term paraganglioma. So mainly this pheochromocytoma, this will release norepinephrine. So we can remember this by a rule called as 10% rule. So 10% are bilateral, 10% are malignant, 10% are extra-adrenal, and 10% are familial. 10% are familial. If I say clinical features, so remember clinical feature will be palpitation. Patient will develop palpitation. So there will be palpitation. You can remember the mnemonic. There will be hypertension. With hypertension, patient will develop headache. And there will be diaphoresis. So PhD is a mnemonic to remember clinical features of pheochromocytoma. How to make a diagnosis for screening? We have a test called 24 hours urinary metanephrine. So just remember, this test is not to make a diagnosis, to confirm the diagnosis. This is for screening. If I say for confirmation what we do? For confirmation we do plasma metanephrines. We can do MRI abdomen to localize the tumor. The treatment basically is surgical treatment. We can use two drugs like IV phentolamine. This is used intraoperative. Sometime during operation, patient can develop hypertension. In that case, we give phentolamine. Pre-operative, before operation, what we give phenoxyethamine. Okay, then remember, all men are not same. We have different type of men. All men are not same. So we can have man one. Remember 3P. 3P means pituitary adenoma, parathyroid hyperplasia, and pancreatic tumor. So these are features of man 1 syndrome. Man 2 means there will be one amendment, that is parathyroid hyperplasia, pheochromocytoma, and medullary carcinoma of thyroid. If I say man 2B, this will include your mucosal neuroma, Marfanoid habitus, medullary carcinoma of thyroid, and pheochromocytoma. MTC is medullary thyroid carcinoma. And we have a latest one, that is man 4 syndrome, also called as man X syndrome. Sometimes we use the term man 4 or man X. Man 2B sometimes also called as man 3. So in my next syndrome, you will see features like pituitary tumor, that is PPAR, pituitary parathyroid adrenal renal. Okay, let us discuss a topic that is important in endocrinology, that is diabetes. So we have type 1 diabetes. So remember the HLA, DQA1, DR3, DR4. The gene for type 1 diabetes is CTLA4. CTLA4. The antibody that you will see in type 1 will be anti-islet cell antibody, anti-glutamic acid decarboxylase, that is anti-ICA or anti-GAD. Anti-GAD. Type 2, it is polygenic. So we have multi-factor network. And third type was type 1.5. In type 1.5, remember two names. That is ketosis prone diabetes. LADA is latent autoimmune diabetes of adult. Latent autoimmune diabetes of adult. Okay, then if I say the significant one is in my list, that is your MODY, that is maturity onset diabetes of maturity onset diabetes. So understand this type of diabetes we call this MODY. So we have different variants like MODY 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Out of this, the most common type is MODY 3. And this MODY 3 is due to HNF1 alpha gene. It is due to HNF1 alpha gene. This is MODY 3, that is the most common type. We also have MODY 1, that is rare. So remember this MODY 3, that is most common type. Maturity onset diabetes of them. Okay, then certain syndromes like Cushing syndrome, acromegaly, pheochromocytoma, somatostatinoma, leukocytoma. These are some of the diseases. These are other endocrine diseases which are associated with diabetes. Generally, you will see these patients of Cushing's or acromegaly, pheochromocytoma, they might be having insulin resistance or they will be having diabetes. So these are diseases, other endocrine diseases associated with diabetes. Okay, if I say sometimes certain drugs, usage of certain drugs can precipitate diabetes. The most common drugs being steroids. Most common drugs being steroids. So that is why when we are treating COVID patient and they are diabetic, it becomes very difficult to treat them. So remember, these are the drugs. These are the drugs which can cause diabetes. So just the exam is near, so you don't have to remember the entire list. Just remember the important one. The most common drugs are steroid. And second, we have a drug called as L-asparginase that we use in treatment of leukemia. So in ALL, we use a regime that is VAPD regime, that is A is asparginase. Then some sugar-containing syrup, like some cough syrups or some syrup for constipation. So these syrups are having sugar, so that can also cause diabetes. These are the drugs which can cause diabetes. Okay, then understand sometimes you see the patient of diabetes, he is having abdominal obesity. That is, you will see abdominal thickness, waist circumference more than 102 centimeters and 88 centimeters. Triglyceride more than 150. So let me simplify this. You can see a patient whose fasting blood sugar is more. Fasting blood sugar is more means this patient is having diabetes. So we can say this patient is having either diabetes or pre-diabetes, like 110. This 100 to 126 that ranges, that 110 to that range is called as pre-diabetes range. So it is not a diabetic range, so either it could be diabetes or pre-diabetes range. So either your patient is having diabetes range or pre-diabetes range. That is, I have said the word D, that is diabetes or pre-diabetes. Patient can also have hypertension, so you can see the blood pressure systolic is more than 140, diastolic is more than 90. Hypertension. This patient will be having obesity, that is abdominal obesity. If you notice, like sometimes this patient will be having increase in the level of your lipids. If I say the first lipid in my list will be, this lipid is triglyceride, so you will see triglyceride levels are more. The second lipid, one more lipid I am writing, the second lipid is one more lipid the patient will have, that will be the level of HDL, and HDL is a good cholesterol, so HDL levels are decreased. So I have given you mnemonic, that is patient will have diabetes, hypertension, obesity, and derangement of lipid. The mnemonic is DOLE. So these are the 5 features. If any 3 features are present, if 3 or more features are present, then we call this metabolic syndrome. So this is your metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome, sometimes also called as syndrome X. Metabolic syndrome, or sometimes we call it syndrome X. Okay, so understand that sometimes this patient, sometimes the syndrome, this patient, for example, I can sometimes a patient is coming to you with these kind of features. That is, patient is having metabolic syndrome. Along with this, you will see the patient is having obstructive sleep apnea. Then we use the term syndrome Z. In that case, we use the term syndrome Z. Syndrome that is metabolic syndrome plus at night sometimes patient will have difficulty in breathing. That is what we call syndrome Z. Okay, then rhinocerebral mucormycosis at ending topic. Remember that our test will be liposomatic amphotericin B, acute emphysematous cholecystitis, acute emphysematous pyelonephritis, malignant otitis externa caused by your pseudomonas, and some infection-related glomerulonephritis. These are infections which are unique in diabetes. These are infections which are unique, means these are mostly seen in diabetic patients. These are infections which are unique in diabetic patients. Okay, then we have two emergency complications. So these are two, I can use the word emergency complication. One of them is called as diabetic ketoacidosis. Second is called as diabetic non-ketotic hyperosmolar coma. So just I have written the short form. DK is diabetic ketoacidosis, diabetic non-ketotic hyperosmolar coma. So understand this, the difference will be like this. If I can say the DK patient, the sugar will be in the range of 400 to 600. Usually, it is not always seen. The sugar will be more than 600. Understand this, then how you will differentiate, you will make the difference like this patient
Here the
of
sugar
DK,
will be more than 600.
the diabetic ketoacidosis patient, this patient will have
Diabetic
ketone bodies.
this patient will have ketone bodies,
Ketone bodies will be absent.
but here you will see ketone bodies will be absent.
Ketone bodies are absent. So
Ketone bodies are absent. So then what else you will notice? You will notice the patient of DK.
This
This patient will have acidosis. If you do the ABG, in the ABG you will see acidosis. Here you will see acidosis will also absent. So these are the feature differentiating. The difference is this patient will have loss of consciousness or altered sensorium because this patient is in comatose state. You will see here coma. Generally, these complications they are having certain triggers. Triggers means suppose a diabetic patient is taking his medication on time. So what could be the triggers? The first trigger is like he is taking the medication on time, then suddenly he left his medication because he is taking some Ayurvedic medication or he is taking some many herbs. That is non-compliance. This patient is not taking medication on time. That is one trigger. Second reason like this kind of complication can occur if this patient is having superimposed infection. For example, the diabetic patient normally is stable, otherwise healthy. But sometimes what happens, this patient can develop COVID-19 infection or any bacterial pneumonia, or this person can make a road traffic accident. So this question was asked last in exam, in IMS exam. So they can also ask another exam. That is the most common trigger. After non-compliance, remember it is infection. So non-compliance was not given the option. So most common trigger will be non-compliance followed by infection. Then it can be due to road traffic accident. Okay, then in diabetes we can see some long-term complication. That is we divide into microvascular complication and macrovascular. So just remember some one-liner that they ask in exam is diabetic retinopathy. You will see changes like dot hemorrhage, retinal detachment, cataract. In nephropathy, you can say diabetes. You will see earliest feature will be microalbuminuria. You can see the most common lesion. We call this most common finding, that is diffuse glomerulosclerosis. But if you see the most specific finding, that will be nodular glomerulosclerosis. This nodular glomerulosclerosis is also called as Kimmel-Wilson nodule. If I say there can be coronary artery disease, so patient can develop silent MI. If you are diabetic, then there is a 100% chance of development of into peripheral vascular disease. There can be risk of stroke and hemorrhage. Macroviruses lipotica diabeticum, acanthosis nigricans, shin spots, scleroderma, pigmented purpura, eruptive xanthoma, xanthelasma, granuloma annulare. These are infections, or these are the skin manifestations, so we call them diabetic dermopathy. Diabetic dermopathy. So these are dermatological manifestation that we see in a patient who is diabetic. Diabetic dermopathy. Okay, then we have different type of insulin, like short-acting insulin, like Lispro, Aspart, Glulisib. These are short-acting. If I say intermediate-acting, so this will be your NPH. NPH stands for neutral protamine hagedron, and the second one will be your regular insulin. If I say the third type, that is long-acting, that is Glargine, Detamir. There is one more, Degludec. Okay, sometimes we have insulin available in the form of powder, that is called as powdered insulin, or insulin. These kind of insulin we can take by inhalation route. So we call them inhalational insulin. Inhalation insulin, this includes insulins like, we can use insulin like Afrezza and Exubera. Afrezza and Exubera. So these are your inhalation insulin. Okay, if I talk about anti-diabetic drugs, so we have first category that is commonly used. We call them liguanides. Liguanides means these are drugs like metformin, penformin. metformin, fenformin, they have a side effect. There is risk of lactic acidosis. Because of this reason, fenformin is no longer used. So nowadays, what we use only metformin. The advantage of using this drug is the only drug which do not cause hypoglycemia. So generally we stand, and it's very cheap. So remember, it is a main drug which do not cause hypoglycemia. So we start the patient. The earliest drug to be started metformin. Fenformin is no longer used because of this hypoglycemia. If I say sulfonylureas, understand this. These are tolbutamide, clopropamide. These are older generation. Again, we don't use them. So nowadays we use those sulfonylureas which start with G dot, and they will end in IDE. Glimepiride, glibenclamide, lipizide, gluburide. These are sulfonylureas. Then we can have malignants like rapaglinide, nataglinide, thiazolate inhibitors like triaglitazone, rosiglitazone, pioglitazone, alpha glucosidase inhibitor of arbose, glucose meglitol, exenatide, liraglutide. These are GLP-1 analogs. Remember, liraglutide is also approved in treatment of obesity. Then we have TPP-4 inhibitor, that is your sildagliptin, vildagliptin, tenagliptin. A myelin analog is the second category of drugs. This drug is important because this drug we can also use in type 1 diabetes. Mostly in type 1, the treatment is insulin, but this drug we can also use in type 1 diabetes. Then we have SGLT2 inhibitor, that is sodium glucose transport inhibitor, that is canagliflozin, empagliflozin. These are the drugs that we use in diabetic patients. Okay, so understand this. For remember, we have sometime opposite of diabetes, opposite of hyperglycemia, that is hypoglycemia. Hypoglycemia, remember, there are many risk factors. It can be due to excess alcohol. It can be due to excess insulin. It can be due to sepsis.
Just remember,
So just remember few important points. It can be due to
causes like
causes like it can be due to
alcohol. It can be due
to
to
starvation.
It can be due to excess
dose of insulin. It can be due to an insulin secreting tumor. We call this insulinoma. Or sometimes remember it can be also due to beta blockers. So if I say hypoglycemia, we call it hypoglycemia when blood sugar is less than 70 milligram per deciliter. When your blood sugar level drop to less than 70. If it is dropping to less than 40, if it is less than 40, then patient will develop neurological feature. We call this neuroglycopenia. So understand this. So patient will develop symptoms of hypoglycemia. So let me write like patient. If you are having a patient and this patient is having symptom of hypoglycemia, that he is dizzy, he's having nausea, vomiting. His blood sugar will be less than 70. So just I'm writing low blood sugar, and you will notice a symptom will be resolved once you give the patient sugar or any type of sugar. So this will be corrected or resolution of symptom after giving glucose. So once you give glucose or dextrose, the symptom will be resolved. This is a triad. This triad is an important triad. We call this Whipple's triad. So we call this Whipple's triad. That is, patient will have symptoms of hypoglycemia. His blood sugar will be less, and the patient will have resolution of symptom as soon as you give blood glucose. So we call this Whipple's triad. Okay, if I say hyperparathyroidism, just understand this fact. If I say hyperparathyroidism means more PDH. So if I say some clinical features that they ask as an MCQ exam, you will see hyperparathyroidism, you will see the spine. The spine will have a classical manifestation. We call them a rugged jersey spine. Such type of spine is called as rugged jersey spine. If you see the skull is called as pepper pot skull. Pepper pot skull. So basically the calcium will be more here, so patient will precipitate with kidney stone. There will be precipitation of kidney stone in the patient. So understand this. This is your symptoms of hyperparathyroidism that you'll see. Generally, what we see, we can divide like this into primary hyperparathyroidism, and we can say secondary hyperparathyroidism. So just try to understand this. If I use the word primary hyperparathyroidism, so we will see the mainly here the cause is due to parathyroid hyperplasia, parathyroid tumor. So basically you will see here calcium level will be more, phosphate level will be less, serum alkaline phosphatase value will be more and PTH level will be more. To diagnose this condition, we can do a scan. That scan is called as SESTA-MABI scan. SESTA-MABI scan. Sometimes we also call this technetium-99 scan. Just do not confuse this technetium-99 scan with technetium pertechnetate scan. This is technetium-99 scan. Technetium pertechnetate scan we use for Meckel's diverticulum. So if I say in secondary hyperparathyroidism, generally this is not due to hyperplasia. You will see this in CKD patient. So in CKD patient, what you will notice the serum calcium level will be decreased. You will see phosphate level will be just opposite of this because patient is having low GFR. So you will see phosphate level will increase, SAP value will increase, and you will notice serum PTH, that is serum PTH level, because it is hyperparathyroidism, so this will increase. You will also notice the patient will also have low level of vitamin D3 because vitamin 3 activation occurs in kidney, so the cause is kidney failure. So these are the differentiating features of primary and secondary hyperparathyroidism. Okay, if I compare this with hypoparathyroidism, so understand this, if I compare this with hypoparathyroidism, so we have many causes of this. So like you can remember the cause, like it can be due to accidental removal of parathyroid gland during thyroid surgery. So accidental removal of parathyroid gland during any kind of surgery, so we can get this manifestation, or you can say we can get hypoparathyroidism due to a syndrome, that congenital syndrome is called as DGOG syndrome. So basically your DGOG syndrome, here you will see there will be less development of thyroid and development of parathyroid, parathyroid and thymus. Patient will also have parathyroid dysfunction, that will be hypoparathyroidism. Okay, let me, so sorry, I am discussing this is hypoparathyroidism. So I am talking about hypoparathyroidism. Hypoparathyroidism. So remember, accidental removal, or it can be due to DGOG syndrome. So if I say DGOG syndrome, it is due to mild development or of thymus and parathyroid. So patient will develop hypoparathyroidism and immature T cells, because as you know, T cells they mature in thymus. So if I say what else you should remember, like let me discuss the topic that is you should remember hypothyroidism. So we are discussing the important topic here. If I say hypothyroidism, to understand this, there are many causes. Numerous causes of hypothyroidism. Remember, the most common cause nowadays what we have is Hashimoto's thyroiditis. So remember, the most common cause will be Hashimoto's thyroiditis. In Hashimoto's thyroiditis, you will find some findings, that is, you will find anti-TPO antibody. This is autoimmune inflammation of thyroid gland. So you will find anti-thyroid prostaglandin antibody, and you will notice the patient with Hashimoto's will have Hurthle cells. We call them Hurthle cells. So these are some one-liners that they ask in exam. So hypothyroidism, you can see it can be due to Hashimoto. Sometimes it can also be due to endemic goiter. Sometimes it can be due to endemic goiter. So there are certain drugs, like a certain food item like cabbage. Remember this cabbage, and remember some drugs, especially a drug that we use in cardiology. We call this amiodarone. So these are few causes of primary hypothyroidism. So if I say in hypothyroidism, if I compare this with hypothyroidism, so remember, okay, if I say how to manage hypothyroidism, remember the treatment is done by levothyroxine. Treatment for hypothyroidism is done by levothyroxine. So generally this comes in 25, 50, 75, 100, 125 microgram. So generally these tablets we give in the morning before breakfast. So if I say hyperthyroidism, understand as hyperthyroidism, there are numerous causes. So this time I'm talking about the most common cause, that will be your Graves' disease. In Graves' disease, remember the antibody name is LATS, long-acting thyroid stimulating antibody or thyroid stimulating immunoglobulin. So these are the antibody you will see. So this is called as primary hyperthyroidism. If I say the word secondary means secondary is due to pituitary tumor. Secondary is due to pituitary tumor. If I say you can see sometimes some other causes like due to thyrotoxis bacteria that can occur due to eating some drugs which contain thyroxine or due to eating beef or cattle or cattle. If I say how we manage this, understand this. If I say how we manage hypothyroidism, so we have drugs, we can give drugs like PTU. PTU is drug that is preferred in pregnant patients. In pregnancy, we give PTU. What else we can give? We can give drugs like carbimazole, methimazole, carbimazole, methimazole. Okay, then now let us discuss about something about the nephrology part. Something about the nephrology part, like where you will find which type of cast. So let me say, if I use the word RBC cast, RBC cast, you will see where you will see this in nephritic syndrome. So this RBC cast are seen where in nephritic syndrome. Now, nephritic syndrome basically they are glomerulonephritis. So in glomerulonephritis, we can divide this where into nephritic and nephrotic. So just one more thing I'm writing, we can also see lipid cast. So remember lipid cast we see where in nephrotic syndrome. Lipid cast is seen in nephrotic syndrome. RBC cast you will see in nephrotic syndrome. WBC cast you will see in pyelonephritis. WBC cast you will see in pyelonephritis. If I say hyaline cast, these are normally seen in sometime in normal patient who drink less water. So these are due to dehydration. These are due to dehydration. Sometimes we use the term broad granular cast or waxy cast. These are seen in CKD patient. In pigmented cast or muddy brown cast, these are seen in acute tubular necrosis. So these are the casts that we see in your nephrology. Okay, so if I use, we have to scan. So understand this, if we say any kind of perfusion defect, or functional defect. Perfusion or functional defect means kidney anatomy is normal. So P for perfusion, we use DTPA scan. But understand this, if I use the word morphology, so M for morphology, so if some morphological defect or anatomical defect, in morphological defect or anatomical defect, we use DMS scan. Okay, then we have certain tests for renal function tests. Understand this, for glomerular function, we can use creatinine clearance test. We can use urine clearance test. We can also use cystatin C method. If I say for tubular function, we can use water deprivation test. For renal plasma flow, we can use para-aminobutyric acid pH. So these are the tests that we use for renal function. Okay, so understand this. Next, if I say one more thing, if I want to add here is like we can have different type of AKI, acute kidney injury. So acute kidney injury, it can be pre-renal, it could be renal, or we use the term intrinsic, or it could be post-renal, So just understand this. If I say renal and intrinsic cause, we can differentiate it by fractional excretion of sodium, that is called as FANA. The best test to differentiate renal AKI, that is your fractional excretion of sodium. Is it clear? So just understand this. If I say in pre-renal, the FANA value will be less than 1. In intrinsic, the FANA value will be more than 2. So this is how we differentiate renal and. Okay, then we have PCKD, polycystic kidney disease. So we can have two variants, like we can say ARPCKD, autosomal recessive polycystic kidney disease, and we can have ADPCKD. ARPCKD is generally seen in infant. So if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, chromosome number for this will be 6. If I say generally ADPCKD is the one we call PCKD. So PCKD, remember the chromosome number will be 4 and 16. If I say this ARPCKD, you will see generally the patient will develop cyst and fibrosis. So patient die early. If I say adult type, Here you can remember the features by simple mnemonic. That will be symptoms, which you can remember. Features which can remember by alphabet B. So it is more commonly seen in boys. You will see the patient will have bilateral cyst. So patient will complain of bilateral pain as well. You will see generally it is seen in black or African patient. Commonly seen in black or Africans. You will see the patient will have three very peculiar features. That is, there will be biliary cyst. So if I ask you, biliary cyst means patient will also develop cyst in the liver. Biliary cyst or hepatic cyst. If I ask you the most common region where patient will develop cyst, the answer will be kidney. After kidney, the most common site will be liver. The patient will be at risk of Berry aneurysm. So there will be risk of Berry aneurysm, and you know Berry aneurysm can rupture anytime, and patient can develop subarachnoid hemorrhage. Lastly, I can say in this patient, you will see the patient will have bicuspid valve defect, bicuspid, or you can say mitral valve defect. So remember, it is not only a disease of kidney, it is also affecting your liver, your brain, and your heart. This is about your polycystic kidney disease. Polycystic kidney disease. Okay, then understand this. We have synpharyngitic hematuria that you'll see if patient develop hematuria after pharyngitis in less than 1 week. We use the term synpharyngitic, or we can use the term delayed hematuria when patient develop hematuria after 1 week of pharyngitis. So synpharyngitic at the same time you will see IgA nephropathy, and delayed type you will see PS gene and Hanna-Schaling purpura. PS gene is your post streptococcal glomerulonephritis. PS gene will be your post streptococcal glomerulonephritis. Post streptococcal glomerulonephritis. Okay, so what we can see the patient can develop renal artery occlusion and stenosis. We call this renal artery stenosis, that is RAS. In short, we use the term RAS. So if I say renal artery occlusion and stenosis, the most common cause. So remember, the most common cause overall will be atherosclerosis. Overall, most common cause will be atherosclerosis. You can also see if I say the most common cause in young patient, this will be fibromuscular dysplasia. Fibromuscular dysplasia. So basically, in this disease, patient will have refractory hypertension. So clinically, if I say the patient can develop refractory hypertension, so just I am adding the word young. In young, you will see fibromuscular dysplasia. The patient will develop refractory hypertension. Refractory hypertension means any type of hypertension which is not controlled by 3 or more type of drugs that must include one thiazide containing diuretic. So this is refractory hypertension. So understand this. What is refractory hypertension? Any type of hypertension that is not controlled by 3 or more drugs that must include a diuretic. Okay, so if I say the patient is developing urolithiasis, that is a kidney stone. So if I see the most common stone, just I am writing some MCQs that they ask in exam. The most common stone will be your calcium oxalate. Most common stone will be calcium oxalate. Sometimes they ask an MCQ which are a radio opaque stone and which are radiolucent stone. Radio opaque, radiolucent. So understand this. If I say a radiolucent stone, this you can remember by mnemonics. Lux, Escalias, top brand. Lux in Lux. So Lux stands for lucent. So lucent means this is lucent. Lucent stone will be your uric acid. Xanthine. Sometimes you can see a stone you can get by using a drug called indinavir or triampylene or triampylene or triampylene. All other stones are radiopaque. All other stones are radiopaque. So this is your radiopaque and radiolucent stone. Radiopaque and radiolucent stone. If I say nephrotic syndrome, so understand this nephrotic syndrome, you know the feature, the patient will have features, clinical feature of nephrotic syndrome. This you can remember by mnemonic protein leak. Proteinuria, Patient will develop proteinuria. This proteinuria will be more than 3.5 gram per day. More than 3.5 gram per day. There will be lipiduria, means more lipid in urine. There will be lipidemia. Patient can develop edema. There will be low albumin, that is albumin decrease in blood, hypoalbuminemia, and there will be coagulation. The three classical syndromes that will have nephrotic feature, remember, that is MCD. Most common cause of nephrotic syndrome is minimal change disease. Membranous glomerulonephritis, most common cause of nephrotic syndrome in adult. And we have FSGS, focal segment glomerulosclerosis, that is most common cause of nephrotic syndrome in adults in India, in developing countries. Then we have minimal changes. Understand this. Here the classical MCQ that they ask exam, you will see features like selective proteinuria. You will see selective proteinuria. Basically, this is a revision session, so I'm just discussing the MCQ part. This MCD will show good response to steroid. There will be an excellent response to steroid. As soon as we give steroid to patient will be improving. If I say minimal changes, what else is important? Understand this. You will see this minimal changes. You will see in light microscopy. In immunofluorescence, you will see no change. You will see normal glomerulus. You will see normal glomerulus, but in electron microscopy, you will see loss of food process. Loss of food process. This change you will see there. In electron microscopy, sometimes we use the term effacement of podocyte for loss of food process. FSGS, understand this, it is associated with HIV. It is associated with HIV. So sometimes we use the term HIVAN. HIVAN means HIV associated nephropathy. So in HIV, you will see the variant. That variant is called as collapsing type of FSGS. And this collapsing type of FSGS, remember, this is having worst prognosis. This is most dangerous type of FSGS that you see. In FSGS, the patient will have a very poor response to steroid. There will be poor response to steroids. Right? Okay, if I say MGN, so MGN, you can see MGN is related to certain drugs. So sometimes it can be due to some systemic diseases, sometimes with infections. So what is important is, remember, in microscopy, you will see spike and dome pattern. You will see spike and dome pattern in microscopy in case of MGN. Okay, if I say nephritic syndrome, so you can remember nephritic syndrome by mnemonic again. Sorry. P stand for PSGN, post streptococcal glomerulonephritis. A will be your Alport syndrome. A will be your anti-GBM, anti-glomerular basement membrane. This anti-GBM is called as Goodpaster syndrome. R is your RPGN, rapid progressive glomerulonephritis. RPGN, the classical feature you will also see here, crescent. So we also call this crescentic glomerulonephritis. And I is your IgA nephropathy. IgA nephropathy. So just I'm highlighting few points, like you will see. IgA nephropathy is also called as Buerger's disease. Also called as Buerger's disease. Okay, if I say PSGM, so remember PSGM, you will see the complement levels will be decreased here. So there will be decrease in the level of complement protein C3. You will see cola colored urine. Cola colored urine. You will see starry sky appearance. Starry sky appearance. And I told you before, there will be delayed hematuria. There will be delayed hematuria in after a few weeks. Not symphyretic hematuria that we see in IgA nephropathy. You will see the classical features, subepithelial humps. You will notice subepithelial humps. So these are the MCQs related to PSGM. Okay, if I use the term Alport syndrome, so remember it is having COL4A5 gene mutation. Collagen 4A5 gene mutation. So you will see the patient will develop a triad, that is, there will be manifestation in the eyes, manifestation in the ears. You will see manifestation in the kidney. So in the eyes, patient will develop anterior lenticonus. Anterior lenticonus. Remember, posterior lenticonus is seen in Loewe syndrome. This is your anterior lenticonus. In ears, you will see sensorineural hearing loss, and kidney, you will see glomerulonephritis. If I say the mode of Natus, this is having X-linked dominant mode of Natus in case of Alport syndrome. IgA nephropathy, here the patient will present to you with gross hematuria, so there can be gross, syn, pharyngitic hematuria. And this is your most common cause of nephritic syndrome. This is your most common cause of nephritic syndrome. Most common cause of nephritic syndrome. So remember, G for Gurda, Gurda means kidney, P for Phephle, Phephle means lungs. This will involve your kidney and lungs. Gurda, Phephle, P for Gurda is kidney. Phephle means lungs. So this will involve your kidney and lungs. This is the name of antibody, that will be your anti-GBM. Anti-glomerular basement membrane antibody. In microscopy, you will see there will be disruption of basement membrane. MPGN is again associated with many infection or systemic diseases, sometimes due to side effect of certain drugs. The classical pattern that you see in MPGN, this will be your tram track appearance. Tram track appearance. Okay, so then we have acid nephritis. We have different type. So we have type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4, type 5, type 6. So understand this. If I say type 1, we call this minimal proliferative or minimal type. Type 2 is called as mesangial or mesangial type. Type 3 is called as focal. Type 4 is called as diffuse. So just remember, the patient will complain, the patient is diagnosed generally in this type. So most common type diagnosed will be DPGN. DPGN, this is diffuse proliferative glomerulonephritis. If I say type 5, will be called as membranous. And type 6 is your end stage renal disease, that the patient will develop kidney failure. So most common diagnosis type 4. So in acid nephritis, these are different types. You will see some classical features. These features are more pronounced in type 4. You will see some features like you will see wire loop lesion, and you will see full house effect. Full house effect. This will have both mixed features, nephritic and nephritic. Diabetic nephropathy I discussed above. So just remember one thing, microalbuminuria, you will notice, you will see 3 variants. 2 variant, that is diffuse glomerulosclerosis and nodular. Nodular is called as Kimmel-Steele-Wilson nodules. Kimmel-Steele-Wilson nodule. Okay, then we have RPGN. So understand this, RPGN is end stage. It is a complication of nephritic syndrome. So this will be the complication of your all nephritic syndrome. And if I say an RPGN, you will see the classical feature that you will find here presents. The patient will develop kidney failure within few weeks. So this is having a worst prognosis. So this will carry worst prognosis. It is most dangerous type. Within few weeks, patient will develop complete kidney failure. Renal papillary necrosis, if I say the most common cause will be diabetes. Most common cause will be diabetes. Sometimes it can happen due to some other side abuse or side effect of certain drugs like anaphylaxis. Side effects like anaphylaxis. Okay, acute kidney injury. So understand this, the acute kidney injury, the patient is having kidney failure. So this now we don't use the term acute kidney failure, but we use the term acute kidney injury. So this is remember the classification nowadays that we use is KDIGO classification. Kidney disease improvement, global outcome, and we can use a criteria called as rifle criteria. So we have two types. I told you that is FENA, that is fractional excretion of sodium. It can differentiate between intrinsic type, and pre-renal types. How will differentiate? By FENA, fractional excretion of sodium. Okay, then we have a last, that is CKD. CKD will be the end stage renal disease. So that is a complication form. So for CKD, you understand this? We classify grades of CKD. G1, like G1, G2, G3, G4, G5. So based on your GFR, these grades are seen. See the management of this G1, G2, G3. You need to control the sugar, that is the mnemonic which I am giving you. A, B, C, D, so that is control A1C, That is, you should do the good control of sugar. B is your BP, control the blood pressure. C means cholesterol. So we should also control the cholesterol of a patient. So management of G1, G2, G3 is same. A1C means HbA1c. That is, you should control the blood sugar. What is B means you need to control the BP. So we can give for controlling of BP, we can give ACE inhibitor. We can use ACE inhibitor. If I say with C, we need to control the cholesterol. That is, we can control cholesterol by giving statins. D will be your vitamin D3. The patient is having kidney failure, so you can get a supplementation with vitamin D3. If I say in G4 and G5, the treatment is done by, we can do dialysis. Either we should be doing dialysis, or what we can do transplant. So in G4 and G5, the treatment is dialysis or transplant. Okay, sometimes you will see in some patients secretly they will also have associated anemia. So I can extend this. We can give erythropoietin. And sometimes the patient will develop potassium imbalance, so we can also give potassium. So this is about CKD. GFR estimation, I told you, we can have a Cockcroft formula, we can use Stassin method, we can use Leukinurate, we can use creatinine clearance. So we have different methods. This time writing here. That is once again source start and C. Then we can use inulin clearance. We can use creatinine clearance. In past, we were using Cockcroft Gold formula. So these are for GFR estimation. Okay, if I say dialysis, understand is the ideal dialysis what we do is thrice in a week, that is 3 times in a week. This is the ideal timing of dialysis. So we make AV fistula before doing dialysis. Right. So understand this. So dialysis patient can develop certain complication. So we can create AV fistula. We call the Simeon-Vesica fistula. So we have a common complication after dialysis patient can develop complication. This time writing the important complication. So after dialysis, your patient can develop hypertension. This is the most common complication. There can be allergy with the dialyzer or dialysate. So the next complication which I want you to write is that is called as dialysis disequilibrium syndrome. DDS, dialysis disequilibrium syndrome. This is most dangerous complication because here patient can develop cerebral edema. Here patient can develop cerebral edema. Okay, then we have pyelonephritis. Remember, pyelonephritis generally patient initially will develop UTI. This UTI will progress to form cystitis. And cystitis will progress to form pyelonephritis. If I say the most common cause for all these will be E. coli. If I say other pathogens that you should remember, which can be Klebsiella, and it can be Brontes. But remember, the most common cause for all this will be E. coli. Okay, if I say Bartter syndrome, remember autosomal recessive condition, defect in sodium, potassium, glucose, and sugar, there will be no hypertension in Bartter syndrome. There will be no hypertension. If I say how we compare this Bartter's syndrome with Gittelman syndrome, to understand this, the difference you should remember, not similarity, the difference will be, there will be hypomagnesemia and hypoglycemia. So understand this, if I say the Bartter syndrome and Gittelman syndrome, they are both having hypokalemia, but there is no hypertension. On the other hand, if you see Liddle syndrome, in Liddle syndrome, patient will develop hypokalemia and hypertension. This is how we differentiate Bartter, Liddle, and Gittelman. Bartter, Liddle, and Gittelman syndrome. Okay, if I say small kidney, granular contracted kidney, small kidney you will see in glomerulonephritis, in pyelonephritis, in benign nephrosclerosis. So understand this, in pyelonephritis you will see the kidneys are asymmetrically contracted, asymmetrically small. Whereas in glomerulonephritis and nephrosclerosis, you will see they are symmetrically small. Kidney size will be increased in amyloidosis, polycystic kidney disease, diabetic nephropathy. These are 3 conditions where you will see kidney failure with an enlarged kidney. Okay, as I already discussed, the first manifestation will be diabetic nephropathy. Most common will be diabetic glomerulosclerosis. Most specific will be nodular. And these nodules are called as Kimmelstein-Wilson nodules. So this we have discussed for the 3 times. Okay, then we discuss some aspects of hematology that are important in exam. Okay, so we can have SLE, like remember the Trax gene, basically due to Trax gene, due to X chromosome, right? So that's why it's more commonly seen in females. So some pathology is linked with X chromosome. So basically, as well with interferon alpha, so you will see the antibodies. So understand this, the most common antibody that you will see will be ANA. This is most common antibody. There will be non-scarring alopecia. There will be bilateral symmetrical non-related arthritis. So these are MCQs of SLE. And sometimes they ask MCQ related to the antibodies, such as I'm writing to antibody that they ask in SLE. Anti-DSGNA. Anti-DSGNA, understand this. This is specific as well as sensitive. And this antibody, remember, it correlates with disease activity. This will be correlating with disease activity. This will correlate with disease activity. Then we have the most specific antibody, that will be your anti-Smith. Most specific antibody for SLE will be anti-Smith. If I say for drug-induced SLE, we can have anti-stone. For drug-induced SLE, we will have anti-stone. Antibody that is called as anti-P or anti-ribosomal P. P for psychosis. This will cause psychosis SLE. And remember, anti-Rho. Anti-Rho also called as anti-SSA. This is seen in neonatal SLE. These are the antibody you will see in SLE. Different type of antibodies. All antibodies are important. At least you should remember these 5 antibodies. If I say in SLE, you will see the most common cause of death will be infection. Most common cause of death will be infection. After infection, you will see patient will develop nephritis. That is DPGA. Right? Atherosclerosis is also common. If I say most common presentation will be fatigue. Most common presentation is not myelin rash. These are small mistakes. Most common is not myelin rash, is fatigue. So these are 11 features. If I say 4 or more are present, out of 11, if 4 or more are present, to make a diagnosis of SLE. So this is what we call this. We call it SLIC criteria for SLE. These are features to remember. Understand this. Sometimes they ask one-liners, like in SLE, you will see myelin rash, most common type of rash. You will see most common pericarditis. Most common manifestation in the heart will be pericarditis. You will also see Liebman sac endocarditis. I'm not denying this, but you will see pericarditis. What else you will see in the heart? You will see Liebman sac endocarditis. Liebman sac endocarditis. You will see most common lung pulmonary. But again, remember the MCQ that they ask, you will also see shrinking lung syndrome. You will also see shrinking lung syndrome. So these are the one-liner that they ask in exam from SLE. Shrinking lung syndrome. There will be kidney involvement, change in water, anemia. So these are the features that you see in SLE. Cognition defect. For cognition, you will see anti-neural antibody. For psychosis, you will see NTP. You will see NTP. Is it clear? Okay, then understand this. APLA syndrome, anti-phospholipid antibody syndrome. So understand this. This first thing is this disease. The patient will have recurrent miscarriage. So the treatment is lifelong anticoagulation. Lifelong, you need to treat the patient. You need to give anticoagulant. If I say understand this, the antibody, you will find 3 antibodies. So let me just put this in a box. You will find anti-cardiolipin or anti-beta-2 microglobin or lupus anticoagulant. So this is number 1. So any one or more antibody from this, the patient will develop 3 or more miscarriage before 10 weeks, 1 miscarriage after 10 weeks, and premature delivery because of eclampsia or HELLP syndrome. So this is a criteria. So any one or more from this. And if I say the patient is developing venous thrombosis or arterial thrombosis, so any one from this. So understand this. Out of these, if we get one features or more features, that is considered diagnosis. Any one from pink box, any one from green box, any one from orange box. So these are what we call this. We call APLA syndrome, anti-phospholipid antibody syndrome. Generally, they ask question from these antibodies. These antibodies are important. If I say scleroderma, you know the localized form. So if I say scleroderma, the localized form is called as CREST syndrome. Localized form is called as calcinosis, Raynaud phenomena, esophageal dysmotility, sclerodactyly, telangiectasia. CREST syndrome. In CREST syndrome, the antibody you will find, the name of antibody is called as anticentromere. anti-centromere, and you can see a systemic form. The systemic form is called as systemic sclerosis. Systemic sclerosis. So this will be systemic form. The antibody that you will find in systemic form will be your anti-topoisomerase. Anti-topoisomerase, sometimes we also call this anti-SCL70. So patient will develop kidney fibrosis, so there will be decrease in GFR. You can notice their GFR will decrease. Then you will notice the patient will have more renin, and patient will develop hypertension. Patient will develop hypertension. This is what we call scleroderma crisis. So remember, generally in scleroderma, in other crisis, this patient will develop severe hypertension. Now, normally in other hypertension, we give labetalol, we give nitrate containing drugs, which are vasodilators. But here, remember, in scleroderma crisis, when patient will develop severe hypertension, here remember the drug of choice are ACE inhibitors. So even patient is developing high BP, you will give ACE inhibitors. Steroid can worsen the crisis. Steroid can worsen the crisis. If I say the sclerosis is due to which chemical, so this is a bad question that they ask in exam. Sclerosis is due to TGF beta. If I say the cause of death will be your pulmonary hypertension. The cause of death will be pulmonary hypertension. Raynaud phenomena, idiopathic form is called Raynaud disease. So what you should remember here, the color change sequence. So initially color will be pale. Then you will see the color will become cyanosed. There will be cyanosis, that is blue. Then you will see the patient will turn red. R means red. So this is how color change. The mnemonic is PCM. So this will be color change sequence in Raynaud phenomena, right? So primary means when it's idiopathic, secondary means when it is associated with some other disease. Two or more autoimmune disease in a one patient, we call this mixed connective tissue disorders. Remember here the antibody that you will find is anti-U1RNP. So this is two or more autoimmune disease in a person. Two or more autoimmune disease. Okay, then you know the Sjogren syndrome, dry skin, dry mouth. So dry skin, dry mouth, the patient will have a female patient, dry vagina, dry eyes. So these are the features. So you will see there will be increase in level of IgA, increased sodium level. You will see the patient will have decreased salivary phosphate level, reduced salivary chloride. So we can do Schimmer's test for dry eyes. There is risk of lymphoma. Now we have a drug that is Sevimlin that we can use for xerostomia. So just I want to add here the name of antibody that you will see here will be anti-Ro and anti-La. Anti-Ro is also called as SSA, Sjogren syndrome A. Anti-La is also called as Sjogren syndrome B. If you remember anti-Ro, I have told you before in neonatal SLE as well. Basic disease. Basic disease, remember the simple mnemonic, simple MCQ that they ask in exam, that is the patient will develop the association with HLA-B51. The most common finding will be oral ulcers. Most common finding will be oral ulcers. But if I say most specific finding, this will be genital ulcers. So patient will develop both recurrent oral and genital ulcers. Most common being oral ulcers. To make a diagnosis, we do a test. That test is called as pathology test. Pathology test. Okay, then understand dermatomyositis, polymyositis. These are inflammatory myopathies. So you will see classical features like Gorton, papule, celotropic rash, Scholl sign, V signs, Lee sign, Ulster sign. These all are signs. The antibody that you will see will be anti-Jovan antibody. There will be proximal muscle weakness, mechanics, and perivascular atrophy. Right? And in dermatomyositis, you will also find anti-MIP. So these skin findings, these are all skin findings. These skin findings are seen in dermatomyositis. Polymyositis, you will see only muscle finding. You will see only muscle finding. If I say there is one more type of myositis that is seen in elderly, so these two will be seen in young patient. These two will be seen in young patient. If I say a patient is not young, he is an elder person, elderly patient, and here you will see proximal muscles are not involved. Instead, you will see distal muscle involvement, and you will notice the patient will also have association and risk of some cancer. This is what we call inclusion body myositis. Association and risk of. So there will be increased risk of cancer or associated with cancer. So this is what we call inclusion body myositis. Inclusion body myositis. I have seen a question, a clinical case came in exam on this topic, inclusion body myositis. Okay, then understand ankylosing spondylitis. So the MCQ which I'm writing here, the question that they ask in exam will be the HLA will be HLA V27. You will see the patient will have tall height, mostly above 6 feet, and usually these are male patient. You will see bamboo spine. Bamboo spine. To make a diagnosis, you will do a test called as Schauber's test or forward flexion test. We can also use a forward flexion test. The patient will develop ankylosis of spine. Then we can do Romanes sign. We can see Romanes sign or shiny corner sign. How to make a diagnosis? This will be your MRI. Investigation choice will be MRI. Psoriatic arthritis, understand this. The criteria for psoriatic arthritis, criteria name is called as Casper criteria. The most common joint involved here are DIP, distal interphalangeal joint. So Casper criteria include the patient is having, these are the features of Casper criteria, current psoriasis, nail dystrophy, negative factor, negative, current dactylitis, and new bone formation in ankle. So these are the features, we call them Casper criteria. So most common joint will be DIP. So you will see the patient will develop dactylitis. There will be dactylitis. Because of dactylitis, you will see the shape of fingers. We call them sausage digits. They look like a swollen finger. We call them sausage digits. Sausage digits. Or in X-ray, we call this penicillin cup deformity. Inflammatory bowel disease. So these are extra intestinal manifestation of Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. Okay, if I say reactive arthritis, understand this. This patient can't see. They generally can't see. They can't pee. And they can't climb a tree. So understand this, can't see means the patient will develop conjunctivitis. Urethritis. Arthritis. So if I say the patient can develop, initially there will be infection with some viruses or some bacteria like Mycoplasma, Ureaplasma, Salmonella, Shigella, or some viruses, Chlamydia, Campylobacter. These are infective agents. So just few more things. If I say the patient will develop succinate balanitis, patient will develop succinate balanitis, that will be inflammation of your glans penis, and there will be keratoderma, blennorhagicum. Blennorhagicum. These are the MCQ that they ask from reactive arthritis. Okay, so gout, understand this. In gout, you will see monosodium urate crystal. If I compare this with pseudo gout, you will see in gout monosodium urate crystal. These crystals are needle shape. Needle shape. And if I say these are negatively birefringous, these are negative birefringous crystals. In the X-ray, you will see eroded margins. This eroded margins, we call this a Martel sign. We call this Martel sign or G sign. These are the crystals. You can see these are the needle-shaped crystals. These are the needle-shaped crystals. So if I say the most common joint, that will be your great toe. That will be your great toe. The most common joint will be great toe. Means paracanguta. Affecting more males, you will see in the skin, you will see tophi formation. Alcohol is a predisposing factor. Initial uric acid can be normal. So just understand this in acute. If I say the drug of choice in acute gout, you will give NSAIDs. Painkillers are DOC. If I say in chronic gout, we will give drugs like allopurinol. Allopurinol, or we can give febuxostat. New drugs. Now what we have new drugs for gout like rasburicase, Peglotti case. Rasbury case. Sertraline gout you will see in a patient who is having lead poisoning. So, sertraline gout is due to lead toxicity. These are the MCQ that they ask me. Just I want to add something like we have a drug called colchicine. So, colchicine we give in acute gout. So, understand this. A for acute, A to C. In acute we give colchicine. C for chronic. In chronic we give allopurinol. So, remember A to C, C to A. A to C, C to A. Sort of gout, you will see calcium pyrophosphate crystals. These are positive birefringent crystals. The shape of crystals, if I say they will be rhomboid shape. The most common joint here will be knee joint. So these are the MCQ that you should remember for pseudo gout. These are the MCQ. Treatment is same. You will give painkillers. You can give some diuretics to get rid of this excess calcium. Charcot joints, also called as neuropathic joint disease. So you see painless destruction. You can see in Taber's dorsalis in diabetes. The most common cause will be diabetes. Amyloidosis, leukocytosis, and mania. Chromosome 15 tau light fibrillary gene mutation, orphan dominant condition, Pactus carinatum, ectopia lentis, mitral valve collapse, dilatation of ascending aorta. These are features of Marfan syndrome. These are features of Marfan syndrome. If I say one more thing, like to make a diagnosis, the criteria is called as Gaines criteria. Gaines criteria. Okay, you can see the notes. So if I make a simple drawing, so these are your fingers. In the fingers, you will see the notes. If you see the nodes in the proximal area, this is the nodes in the proximal area, this proximal node. In the proximal area, if you see the nodes, this proximal node is called as Bouchard's nodes. The proximal node is Bouchard. If you see the nodes in the distal area, like here, the distal node is called as Aberdan nodes. These are the nodes you will see in osteoarthritis. Right? Okay, if I say sparing, where you will see the joint sparing. So sparing of wrist and MCP. In which disease you will see there will be sparing of wrist and MCP. Wrist and MCP generally is not involved in osteoarthritis. So remember this fact. If I say sparing of DIP, this will be you will see in rheumatoid arthritis. Osteoporosis. So we are having a drug that is your denosumab. This is your rank ligand inhibitor. Rank ligand inhibitor. It's monoclonal antibody. The drug of choice for osteoporosis, that is your bisphosphonates. These are your drug of choice. Right. Along with this, we can add calcium and vitamin D supplementation. So we have D score. If it is -1 to 1 or more, we call this normal. -1 to -2.5, osteopenia. Less than 2.5 or below, we call this osteoporosis. Osteoporosis. So rheumatoid arthritis, you will see that diagnostic criteria is called as ACR Euler criteria. This is American Colleagues of Rheumatology and European League Against Rheumatism. ACR Euler. So you will see how we calculate. We calculate this by SAT joint. SAT joint means serology, acute phase reactant, duration, and joint. So we can calculate joint number. So SAT joint is a mnemonic to remember the features of ACR Euler criteria. So you need to calculate the joint number. Serology means the patient will have rheumatoid factor or NTCP positive or negative. So if composite score is more than or equal to 6, then we say it is a rheumatoid arthritis. So you know, like if I say the drug of choice, the divorce choice for rheumatoid arthritis will be your methotrexate. Nowadays, we don't start with NSAID, start straight away with anti-rheumatoid drugs. Methotrexate, and if it is not controlled, then we can give biological drugs. So we have a new drug to treat this, that is trifactinib. Trifactinib, that is your JAK1, JAK3 inhibitor that we use. The most common anemia you will see is normostatin normochromic anemia. Most common anemia you will see in arthritis will be normostatin normochromic anemia. If I say the most common cause of death will be your heart failure. Most common cause of death will be your heart failure and rheumatoid arthritis. Patient will develop morning stiffness, rheumatoid arthritis, rheumatoid nodule. Rheumatoid nodule, so understand this is seen where in the skin. Initial test will be, or if I say the initial test, that will be your rheumatoid factor. Rheumatoid factor we also call this. This is nothing, this is IgM against IgG. Against IgG. Anti-CCP, this is the best test. Anti-CCP, this will be the best test. You will see joint erosion. You will see joint erosion with narrowing of joint space. So these are the features. You will see sometime. You will see this I have discussed normal anemia. If you see rheumatoid arthritis, along with this you will see neutropenia and splenomegaly. This is what we call the Spalti syndrome. The drug of choice will be methotrexate. These are the important MCQs of rheumatoid arthritis. If I say then we can have some question related to sarcoidosis. So understand sarcoidosis. If I say the most common organ involved will be lungs. After lungs you will see this will be lymph nodes. So sarcoidosis you will find three type of body, that is Schaumann bodies. Schaumann body. The next type of body you will see in sarcoidosis, this will be asteroid body. Asteroid body. Residual body. You will see non-Chiari myeloma. In the skin you will see lupus cornea. You will see fever, carotid gland enlargement, anti-uveitis, and patient of palsy. In some patient, this syndrome, what we call this? We call this Heer-Ford syndrome. Heer-Ford syndrome. And if you see, the patient will develop fever, eczema, nodosum, and bilateral highlight nephropathy. We call this Lofgren syndrome. Lofgren syndrome. Is angiotensin converting enzyme will increase. You can do Gilliam scan. In the Gilliam scan, you will see Panda sign. Panda or lambda sign. This test we don't use this, but still they ask an MCQ, QM test. You can do bronchoalveolar lavage. In bronchoalveolar lavage, you will see CD4 is to CD8 ratio. This ratio will increase. We have scanning scoring system, and you will see Garland sign that will involve right hilar, left hilar, and right paratelical lymph nodes. These are the MCQ related to sarcoidosis. Okay, then we have Chappell classification for vasculitis. That is, we can divide into large vessel, medium vessel, and small vessel vasculitis. Large vessel, medium vessel, and small vessel vasculitis. So let me just write this classification. If I can say the large vessel vasculitis, we can say so large means there will be two T's. Two T's means temporal arteritis, Takayasu arteritis. Temporal arteritis, Takayasu arteritis. Polyarteritis nodosa, Kawasaki disease, and Peugeot disease. Peugeot disease is also called as thromboangiitis obliterans. So this will be your medium vessel vasculitis, Churg-Strauss syndrome, vaginal granulomatosis, microscopic polyangiitis, and Schwallen purpura. These are your small vessel vasculitis. This classification is important. That is large vessel, medium vessel, small vessel vasculitis. Is it clear? Large vessel, medium vessel, small vessel vasculitis. So this is, you should remember this classification. So just if I want to say like a few basic fact about this Takayasu arteritis. So just let me correct this. Temporal arteritis, you can remember by mnemonic, we also call this giant cell arteritis. You will be seeing most common symptom will be headache. Rule of 60. Rule of 60 means it is seen in female above 60 years. It is seen in 60-year female. The ESR in this condition will be more than 60. And the treatment is done by 60 milligram of prednisolone. Most dangerous complication will be blindness. 40% patient will develop polymyalgia rheumatica. Polyarteritis nodosa, remember it will not involve lung. It will not involve lung. But associated with hepatitis B. Kawasaki disease less than 5 years, you will see patient can develop MI aneurysm. There will be strawberry gum. Gallbladder anxiety is also called as Wegener disease. You will see strawberry gums. You will see it can progress into post-immune, and you will see here CMK. The drug of choice will be cyclophosphamide. So Wegener's, so I can write this Wegener's. Wegener's means CMK. The drug of choice will be cyclophosphamide. So this will be the DOC for Wegener's. Schwallen purpura, you will see IgA deposit. It is most common occurrence in children. Generally, it will present with palpable and colic abdominal pain. Such syndrome we have also already discussed. You will see pathological, genital ulcers, more specific oral ulcers. Reactive arthritis we have also discussed. then we can have Churg-Strauss syndrome associated with asthma. Cryoglobulinemia, this will be associated with hepatitis C. That is what you need to remember. So this is a nutshell summary, if I can say. Indomethacin is the preferred drug of choice in most of the seronegative arthritis. In fact, we also built this in seropositive arthritis. So this is, I think, the end of my discussion. So just we have discussed half part of medicine in this video. So what I want is just scroll your notes once for cardiology, neurology, and respiratory. Other part we have covered. So just watch these two videos. All the best from my side. Remember, you can, you will. All the best. Thank you.